would like to welcome everyone to the third Inspire seminar of this year. The Inspire project focuses on artistic encounters in war and conflict and is led by Kasia Grabska, who is also here, of course, and has been leading the series so far. I have the great pleasure to introduce to you Guy Elhanan, who is a PhD student at Exeter University, and he's also a theatre practitioner focused on bilingual performance practice and teaching. And his three plays so far include both Hebrew as well as Arab narration. And the plays deal with a range of burning issues in Israeli-Palestinian societies at present. Guy lives in Haifa, and he teaches Lecoq style acting, and I love to hear more about what that actually entails. And he does that at the Western Galilee College, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I just want to point out to you that the seminar today is recorded. We do hope there will be interesting questions and comments afterwards, and you can either type those in the chat box, but you can also raise your hand. We're a small group, so we can also allow some people to ask questions directly. So I think without further ado, Guy, you're ready for your presentation. We're all looking forward a lot to hearing what you'll have to teach us.
Thank you very much, Cindy, and thank you for this initiative and the invitation I received from Inspire and PRIO. I will start by sharing my screen and my presentation. So this will happen this way. Right. But from the first page, not from, yeah, all right. Yes, pretend that's the first thing you saw. So, performing war is how I chose to call this presentation, which will try to sum up my 10-year career and PhD project of the present time. I will start with not a short introduction. I hope you will bear with me. I'll just say that the picture that you see is from one of the first plays that me and my partner Noah have conceived in the Haifa University, which is called Nakba, The Giant is Coming. It's an adaptation of Oscar Wilde's The Selfish Giant to northern Israeli-Palestinian reality. Preliminal, subliminal. The term limen comes from the Latin for threshold. I will try and use this term as a starting point to explore the in-between condition of stage work in a war zone. Like mercenaries, we in Israel are dependent on foreign budgets, which are, from one perspective, forever conditioned. The use of novelty security technologies keeps us at an eternal threshold between war and peace. These two are conditions, not spaces, but these radically different conditions are lived by different people in the same territory, distinguished only by their ethnic or religious affiliations, their passports or lack of, their gender, etc. War is lived by all in the country of Israel-Palestine, but to very different extents. Some get army advertisements at school. Some have only soldiers to play with after school. Some are obliged to wear a weapon, lied to, and frightened that if they won't, they will be banned. Some believe that. That said, Some others get their cinema festival abrupted by the Israeli special forces, who are controlling their every step. They're subject to torture and abuse of many forms, and are denied learning or even mentioning their history. They risk being kidnapped and taken in as a political prisoner, or be one of the many daily casualties resulting from the recent pogroms perpetrated by the Jewish Israeli settlers, who are protected by soldiers, as they vandalize a Palestinian playground or olive grove. The people to whom the groves and playgrounds belong to will get to meet, maybe for the first time in history, Arabic-speaking Israeli activists like Yuval Avraham, journalist, who is covering the South Mount Hebron pogroms. These soldiers constitute the AKA most moral army in the world, at the self-proclaimed only democracy in the Middle East. Those some that I've mentioned earlier, myself included, may or may not utilize their war-related experience or traumas to end this liminal condition, the reign of Secret Service and defense technology businesses. I have chosen to practice and teach theater in Arabic and Hebrew simultaneously, because I believe that a lot of what keeps us at an ever-changing state of war has to do with the ability or the right to express oneself. So this is a practice as research PhD project at the Exeter University, which basically means that I'm teaching a course this year in the city of Akko, in Hebrew, Akka, in Arabic, a mixed city in the north of Israel, of an acting course, Foundations of Acting, according to the Jacques Lecoq method, which is the school where I studied 10 years ago. The Jacques Lecoq method is basically a physical theater method, which, to my perspective, excels in turning around the hierarchy in theater and performance, putting the text at the last finish line, and the work, the group, the actor, his body, his air body, and the use of these tools on the first foreground as visual theater. This course started this year. We've had 3 sessions by now, and it already has challenging aspects to it. It runs bilingually, which means that many times throughout the course, I am passing to Arabic, and well, the course is of 10 students, 5 Palestinian Israelis and 5 Jewish Israelis. The main difference is that the Palestinian Israelis speak both Hebrew and Arabic. The Jewish students usually speak only Hebrew. Some are from immigrant backgrounds, speak Spanish and Russian. So when I go to Arabic and when the students present their works in Arabic, there is a certain space of silence for those who don't understand and who are somewhat maybe provoked by the Arabic language. That said, I would like to mention right now the logic of elimination, as I will speak about it a bit later through Patrick Wolf's settler colonial theory. The students I meet are a result of this logic of elimination. Their language, Arabic, Palestinian Arabic, is not taught at the same level as Hebrew is taught in Israel. Their dramatic skills and options are none like those of the Jewish students, because they come from an education system which is underfunded and has no art or theater departments, unlike the Israeli high schools. And that said, the landscape, physical landscape and linguistic landscape around them throughout Israel is going through a process of erasure. Very slow but very clear process. What we see in the picture is one of the plays that I've worked with professional actors. The one we don't see his face is Moody Tablawi, a rap artist, and we will see later better of Fida Zidan, a wonderful actor, director, and playwright. The puppet is by Noah Abend, my partner. So, yeah, that would be our beginning. That's me 10 years ago, and Noah to my right. We're at the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood in East Jerusalem. This is 2009. Arabic and Hebrew non-cautious and reckless performance in Israel today. When I speak of non-cautious or reckless, I mean performance practitioners who take risks, professional and physical, Jews and Palestinians, artists who transgress the obvious red lines related to the Israeli colonization of Palestine. The most daring and threatened artists in Israel are Palestinian. I, on the other hand, am privileged and therefore must assume responsibility by addressing uncanny issues, in Homi Bhabha's words, namely issues that are concealed from the public. So, regarding Jerusalem, a little bit of information. The eastern part was occupied by Israel in 1967 and is still under constant harassment of settlers and an ongoing deportation process since 1948. In this picture, at the Al-Kurd family house, where settlers have violently squatted and drove out its residents, is where we started our journey. The police refused to evacuate intruders and basically worked at protecting the settlers inside. In the street, there's a demonstration against the evacuation of the Palestinians, which is violently oppressed by the police. So basically, our job in this picture was to keep the kids busy so they won't have any interactions with the police, tear gas, etc. Once again, we see Fida and Moody. Bilingual Arab-Hebrew performance practitioners operate within the context of the eternally transitional liminal reality of Israel-Palestine. As you can see, I really strive to find the place of bilingual performance because it is not evident that it has a place. It is not so easily welcomed by any, and it's basically, and I think I am basically leaning on a very long tradition of joint Arabic-Hebrew activism through the past 5 generations in organizations such as Combatants for Peace. But in this image you see it C4P, Combatants for Peace, a conscientious objector and political prisoners organization. Or the Parents Circle, bereaved Parents Circle that seeks to end violence and bring peace and reconciliation, or Ta'ayush, an older organization of joint Israeli-Palestinian struggle against the occupation. And at the same time, the past 30 years, 7 bilingual private schools have been formed in Israel. My children are in one of them, in Haifa. I'm proud to say that we all in the family speak fluently Arabic, thanks to this school. This picture is coming from a Palestinian play for children called The Small Lantern, El-Qandil al-Saghir, by Hassan Kanifani, which is many times referred to as the national writer of Palestine, assassinated by Israel. I will not go there. Many cultural figures were assassinated by Israel, but I don't have the time to go into that. So we're watching at the film that was just a few weeks ago presented in Netflix, which is a film where I play a leading role next to actor Ali Suleiman, wonderful actor, who plays the painter, the real-life painter, Hani Zohrab. Hani Zohrab is a Palestinian painter who resides in Paris today, who had to flee Israel because Israeli secret services tried to kidnapped him, trying to make him collaborate and tell them about leftist organizations in the West Bank. He obviously refused and was, well, you'll see the film. Director Jessica Javier, which I met, 20 years ago. Well, not 20, 10 years ago. She met Hani Zohrab and was captivated by his story, but obviously didn't have the other side, didn't have the perpetrator side, and this was written by both of us during a year before the film. And this is the first time I experienced bilingual acting. So I would love to show you more part of. Yeah. Just 1 second, please. Oop. Yeah. This one. This one. I'll just make it bigger screen. Yeah. Is that okay?
We don't hear sound. But
So I wait. So I welcome you to look up this film on Netflix. I'm very proud of it. It took it 14 years to get on screen. It was never published in Israel. So, yeah. Going back to the PowerPoint. That's where we were. Right. So this right here, you see one of Hani Zohrab's paintings. I urge you to go look for them too. Beautiful paintings. And I would like to address this quotation of Patrick Wolf, settler colonialism and the elimination of the native. I think the elimination is something that I meet across my experience through practice and through teaching. And when I spoke about challenges in my class, in my Monday classes, I'm yet to see and to look into the significance of myself and my ethnic identity. The teacher's identity through autoethnography theories, reflexivity, and positionality. There is an absence, such like in the story of Mars at Sunrise, where half the story is real and told at first hand, and the other is basically worked through testimonies of soldiers from organizations like Breaking the Silence, or I've mentioned before, Combatants for Peace. This brings me to 2013, our first attempt at mixing performance and activism. In this play, after many tiny censorships by different theaters, we managed to put up one scene. As you can see in the picture, this mountain, which gives birth to settlements and other terrible things. And at the same time, you see another picture of an old, maybe 100 years old, first collaboration between a white clown and a black clown, which is very well portrayed in the film, Chocolat, Monsieur Chocolat, with Omar Sy, great actor. Basically the first collaboration when people not from Europe or not from the white race were not considered humans yet. So this story for me is a breakthrough in a very long process of humanizing the entire world. I will show small segments of this piece because I believe that the way Israel is treating these territories is showing its inhumane character.
Guy, we can't hear the sound.
Oh.
Guy, I think you have to unshare your screen and then share it again, and make sure to turn on the sound when you share the screen, the little button on the top.
Okay. Right now the button on top, or when I share it?
When you share the screen, there's a button that says include audio.
Include.
Yes.
Wants to install driver. That didn't happen before. Also, before you didn't hear the sound either?
No, we only saw the text.
I thought you said something. See? Is it okay? Can you hear?
You haven't shared your screen. Yeah.
Right. So. Okay. How about now?
No, we still can hear it. Maybe you can unshare your screen and I can share it from mine because I have it here.
Let's try.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you could pass forward a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's enough. That was good. Minute of it.
Can you hear it?
No.
Just a sec. How about now?
Yes, great. Leave it. Wonderful. I would just say is the actual village of Silwan. Is a very poor village at the east of Jerusalem. But we basically the story here is about flying passports. The kind of passports we see around here in the Middle East, and there are different ways of flying. Maybe you can run a bit forward. We'll see the mountain in other conditions. Yeah, now it's coughing out. So this is a reality you see a lot in Israel-Palestine, of green mountains and huge buildings. So back to us. Yes. So performance and activism. Back to here, right. So going through the research fields that brought me to this work, performance studies and performance analysis, namely one book, Performance in Place of War from 2008. Aligning it with Israel-Palestine, this brings me to theories of post-colonialism, indigenous studies, which are strongly debated in Palestine, and the settler colonial paradigm. So my work is divided into performance practice and performance teaching, and I will show a bit of the outcomes of each. So performance practice revolves around many times outdoor performances and the bilingual Arabic-Hebrew theater plays produced within the North Israeli Haifa Palestinian reviving cultural scene, which is a whole thing on its own to know and acknowledge. The outcome of which is state violence, censorship, and police brutality. I will go to the next image. I apologize for its explicitness. So this is how one of our activities in the village of Ma'asara in the West Bank had ended. Basically, once again, our goal was to keep the kids busy with theater, workshops, football, karate, different activities. And well, the soldiers identified us as the leaders of it. The next to me is my brother, Eli. So this is one outcome of our activity. Second thing would be performance teaching. The case study I mentioned before of an acting course used to promote free speech of Jewish and Palestinian Israeli students. The outcome of this one, I would hope and aspire, would be the documenting the students' final performances, which will be evaluated by the criteria of both free speech and performative presence. So the term artivism is something that is being used a lot here. In this case, speaking about, again, the Sheikh Jarrah activity using puppetry. Creation and design and manipulation. This is 2010. This is one picture of the charango. My friend Itamar's charango was playing and animating the kids with this, and Haris, one of the children, which we'll see right now in video, had very special interest in it. Another child, as I see him, is Roman. The Roman is a policeman of Russian origin, as his name shows. He's in a compulsory service between 18 and 21 years of age. With his shortened and loaded M16 rifle, he watches Harif, which we call the seagull. You'll soon understand why. A village boy with blue socks and sandals on a rainy day. He's contemplating Itamar's charango. Itamar Shapira is an Israeli musician and one of the artists gathered to give workshops at the weekly demonstration. A few minutes later, the head officer will ask Harif in terrible Arabic if he doesn't have shoes. Harif only stares at him and gives him no answer, pointing the victory sign with his fingers as rain and gravel kept falling. A few minutes after that, Israeli heads of demonstration will be battered down and dragged by soldiers to Roman, the policeman. He will let us go once he could only find a parking ticket to our name. So, this will also be good to share. So, should I try or should we go directly to?
I will share it. I can share it there from here.
Okay. So I'll just unshare myself. Yeah, that's good. Great.
Do you see it now?
Yeah. So basically, if I can speak at the same time. Stop. If you could lower the volume, I could speak at the same time. Yep. So, so as you can see, this little board. Pause it. Okay, so you see the guy behind him? That would be me, right there. We were all asked to cover our faces with this Palestinian flag mask because the Secret Service was there undercover, or we've been told, looking for the responsible. The costumes were made by my partner and wife, Noah. Birds costumes that we were dealing with and doing in other theater activities. And before demonstration, we were there to do this activity for the children. The soldiers were there in this particular time, reserve soldiers. You could see them smiling and even sort of participating with us. The other time where you see us battered to the ground were not reserve soldiers, but very young, frightened soldiers. So yeah, let's go back to the PowerPoint. I can share. Right. Again.
And just to say that you've now spoken for like 30 plus
Yeah,
minutes.
I noticed. Okay, let's try to see what's going on next. So some of my plays, I will not show all of them because we don't have much time. This is one that I love very much. It's about construction work casualties over and under the scaffolding. We toured all around the country. It was financed not by cultural budgets, but by social security, those who are concerned by accidents. And the picture next to it with the oldest children is actually in Greece, and these children are Syrian refugee. We played for adults basically, but the children loved puppets, so they came closer. So yeah, Greece and Crete. This is again Amir Shukri Yaqub with his teachers' puppets. Fida Zidan and Mudi Qablawi and the small lantern that we saw before. These are for youth and for children. And this is the last play that was accepted through the only fringe festival in Israel, maybe one of the only fringe festival, the Akko Festival. It was accepted and then a few months later banned, probably because of this sequence, this picture, in which I portray a Palestinian suicide by cop case, true case. And the artistic committee at that time accused me of making it a political play rather than a social play. These terms are very flexible in Israel, political and social. This is from the same play. The picture above is of Muhammad Tamimi, and Nabi Saleh is a village next to the border. He was shot in the head with a rubber bullet by an Israeli soldier. He was forced to say he fell off his bicycle. You can see the injury in his head and how this injury was very meaningful in our character design of the child that I am manipulating on stage. We can show you a trailer. So this is a much less political piece. Maybe you can show the trailer. No, I think we'll just go ahead. So this is the Haifa Municipal Theater. Israeli tax money, etc. Yeah, not this one, not the right one. Let me just continue with the presentation because I think we took too long. I took too long. So I'll just, do you see my screen now? Yeah, right? No, we don't. So I'll just do this. Yeah, now you do, right? Okay. So this is actress Hanan Hilo at the Haifa Theater. This would be the selfish giant I spoke of before. You can look it up on YouTube and watch the entire play. It's in Hebrew and Arabic and Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese. This is another part of At the Edge of the Abyss, the same band play I mentioned. It deals with the issue of youth suicide in Israel, largely. Yeah, we saw that. Greece performing to Syrian refugee children and parents. This is a very important book I've mentioned before from 2008. It does not mention the reality of inside Israel, Palestinian reality or Israeli reality, except for one theater, the Arab Hebrew Theater. So work has to be completed. Very important stepping stones in banning and censoring the Parallel Time by Bashar Morkus. We see Dored Bidawi, the actor. This is the play that caused the closing of the Palestinian or the Arabic-speaking municipal theater in Haifa, left here. And the film Janine Janine by a very respectable actor and director, Muhammad Bakri, was banned by Israel after soldiers had sued the director. Mentioning some of the context artists that allow my bilingual work and that supported it directly and indirectly. So Fida Zidan, Amir Halehel, Khalifa Natur, who helped me as a dramaturg, Yusuf Abu Warda, Ophira Henning's kind of. Speaking of Ophira Henning, one of the leading Israeli artists who oppose the occupation and take risks, working from Europe most of the time. So this is also mentioning Palestinian groups in Israel and abroad, Al-Khashabi Theater, Shibr Khor Company, wonderful theater makers. And just mentioning a few other Israelis in the recent efforts to experiment with bilingual stage work and risky issues. Those include works of Israeli independent practitioners such as Ophira Henning, Yonatan Kunda, Ati Pitron, Eitan Weizmann of Prisoners of the Occupation, Snabar Yaron, The Last Arab, or Rabbi Achouri with Harold Pinter's One for the Road. The picture you see is from my play At the Edge of the Abyss. The writing on the wall says, please pray that I will be a martyr. It's a message, a true message. That's it. This is our ensemble. Thank you very much, and I hope I left enough time for questions and debates.
Thank you. Yes, I mean that's also the only reason why I mentioned the fact that you've spoken for 30 minutes, because I know you wanted some questions. Thank you. This was really inspiring and so much more than you could actually present in such a short time. So, but thanks for giving us glimpses of all these really interesting aspects of your work. Like I said at the start, there is an opportunity for writing questions in the chat if you prefer that. But it's also possible for people to, if you could, as much as possible, all put your cameras on so that we can see who's here. Then you could either raise a yellow hand or you could raise your hand like this, and I can give you the word. At times you might need to be given access to the mic, and I see a lot of familiar names also from before and some familiar faces. So welcome to all of you. So who would like to start us off with the first question? Sarah.
Hi, can you hear me? Great,
yes.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed your presentation, and I have a lot of questions, but mainly out of curiosity. I've worked a lot in Palestine with dance myself, and I think I'll just start with, I'm wondering how did you get into this work? So how did you get into the, I had technical trouble at the start, so I might have missed your introduction, but I'm like, you just said you're proud your family speaks both Arabic and Hebrew. And I'm wondering, how did you learn Arabic, and how did you get into both theater, but also more theater activism? And kind of what has been, what has been kind of driving you in this direction? Because I think at least how I know the Israeli society, kind of working in this way is going against kind of everything the Israeli society is trying to work for, and also how they're, like you say, you have this compulsory military service for 3 years. So it requires taking quite an active stance against the occupation. And then I'm also wondering, with your Palestinian collaborators, how do they meet you into this? Like, I know many of my Palestinian collaborators, they are working along the boycott stance. So it means they don't want to collaborate with Israelis, even if they're anti-occupation. So how is that kind of, how do you navigate that in your work? I would be interested to hear more about.
So I'll try to answer it right away, because I'm very, very thankful that you asked these questions, because I didn't have time to relate to that. So first of all, how did I get into it? I was studying theater from the visual theater side of it, pantomime, le coq, non-verbal theater, and this was a sort of an escape for me. When I was in the university in Paris, I got to know, and for the first time in my life, Palestinians, Syrians, Lebanese, all those forbidden people. And being in the theater department, cinema department, I was very fortunate to be around very expressive people, very welcoming and very enriching in culture. And so my initiation towards Arabic was completely cultural: jazz, plays, film. Unlike many of my friends who speak Arabic, but have studied it through the army for for spying reasons and others. So my very civilian Arabic is from Paris, basically, and then from children. As soon as I got this will to come back, paradoxically through my enemies, so I went directly into teaching theater bilingually and to learn Arabic, spoken Arabic. This was thanks to children in the bilingual school system. So this is about the entering into this place and basically seeing who needs theater and who has more than enough. So it's not only the Palestinian Arab population, also the Ethiopian population, the Russian population in Israel don't get any art at all. So this was basically the motivation. Regarding the boycott, I myself supporting the boycott against Israeli, the boycott, divestment, sanction approach with certain points I have my opinions on, which is basically I think Israel shouldn't participate in the Eurovision because it's not part of Europe, or the football or the basketball, these great money endeavors. On the other hand, I'm not for boycotting products because Palestinians work for Israelis, so you want to boycott Israel and you boycott Palestinian workers. But as far as culture is concerned, this is also a place where I defy the claim against normalization. I see Arabic and Hebrew as the two languages of this country. And the 1948 Palestinians, the Israeli Arabs, as they are called by Israel, the 20% of Israeli citizens are the only people in the world who speak both languages. Are the perfect audience, or basically the only audience for bilingual Hebrew-Arabic plays without subtitles. So for me, this is a precious audience and a precious origin for actors who are able to improvise easily between the two languages. So I dialogue with the boycott a lot. We all do. All Palestinians and all Israelis that oppose occupation have to somehow dialogue with it.
Thank you. Sarah, I was wondering whether you was there another element as well, or was your question fully answered?
No, I think I might follow up with something, but yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Kazia?
Yes, fascinating at so many different levels and challenging, as you say. I think for me, the question was to follow up on the audience a little bit. So who is the audience of your theater then specifically, or of this bilingual theater, and how is it received? Of course, we saw the reactions of the soldiers, and you already also told us about the veteran soldiers and the young soldiers, how they are reacting to it. But I'm thinking about more kind of general public on both sides, for that matter. And the second part of that question, on the one hand, the audience, and the other hand, the students in that course that you're teaching right now. I would be very much interested to hear who are these students, who are the Israeli students and the Palestinian students, and how did they end up taking this course? What is their motivation?
So your first question regarding, well, I will start with the second one because it's already in my head. So the motivation for my students is the Lecoq method, foundations of acting and physical approach. I see this approach as basically a bridge to bypass verbal and language differences and reach our acting and through our bodies and movement and scenography and space before we encounter the linguistic differences, but without giving up on them. So already at the third class, two of the students presented in Arabic, and some of the Jewish students, well, I would say showed some sort of unease, but didn't say anything that is not supportive or positive. But Israel and Israelis and Jews are not used to multiculturalism. When I studied in Paris, I did the Dostoevsky monologue in Hebrew. It was completely welcomed and even interesting. Others did in their languages. So this is this challenge. I don't know if I'm glad to say that it didn't explode beyond that yet, or because it would be interesting. I am inviting the students to express their bitter feelings, if there are, or their very sweet feelings about what's going on, because I'm very excited by it. It's a very unprecedented feeling. I've worked a lot with children. I've worked a lot with big classes, 60, 90 Palestinian student classes, but I haven't worked with 10 students, Hebrew, Arabic, and each one gets his time. And so this is very exciting. Your first question, if you could repeat that, Cassie, so I'd be grateful.
So my first question related to the audience. So who is the audience of your performances, but also how the audience reacts to it? You know, the different audiences. We heard about the soldiers, but I'm wondering about, you know, just average audience who comes to your performances.
Right. So the audiences divide very clearly into two. I would say Palestinians and Israelis, but it could also be Palestinians and the West. Because, well, for example, when I was acting in a play at Théâtre du Soleil, the Theatre du Soleil in Paris, we were acting in Arabic and Hebrew and French. And when we had French, the eyes of the audience were with us. But as soon as it was Arabic and Hebrew, the entire audience looked up. And so this, I would say, is one end of the scale of understanding and interacting. The other scale would be a fully fluent Hebrew-Arabic audience that doesn't lift its head even once, but on the contrary is free to choose in what to focus. Because in my plays, there's a lot of interdisciplinary work happening at the same time. I'm very often accused of abundance, of too much things, but pantomime and drawing and music and text are simultaneous. So the perfect audience, in a way, it would be this bilingual audience, but at the same time, while performing in Tel Aviv and in Jerusalem, we had two performances in Jerusalem. One was full house and the other one was empty. So I must say I did not receive any antagonistic reactions, but the no-show for a theater is quite shocking. I must say that these reactions from a harder audience are very interesting to me. So that way it was in Greece also. We had refugee audience and regular Greek people or other people. So the way they received the construction work play was very interesting. So I must say I aspire to all audiences, but I'm very I have to be very aware of the fact that bilingual Hebrew-Arabic theater has a particular audience.
Thank you. There's a last chance for people to raise their hands and ask questions. I haven't seen any in the chat, but in the meantime, I wanted to follow up on Sarah's question myself, with this focus on the fact that this is a real active choice you're making. And I really feel also like your presentation, you talk about risky issues and non-cautious approaches, and it's very clear that it is a level of risk-taking or really actively engaging with something that everyone else tells you not to do. But what I was wondering is whether that also means that your work has actually received active resistance whether from society at large or from the government, or so how much freedom do you have to do the kind of work that you're doing that is actually so important and that might lead others also to engage with risky issues and take non-cautious action, which might be something that society and government wouldn't want to see?
Yeah, well, it's tricky because I would say it's a bit like walking between the drops of rain, you know, because the cultural budgets exist and they are distributed through a process. This process is monitored politically and such, so there's ways to bypass maybe, or like my play about construction work that was denied by cultural budgets but happily received through welfare and unemployment, etc. So when I studied in France, I was very, very jealous of how direct it can be. I want to write a play about refugees. Here, 100,000 euros, go ahead. So it's not, this won't be the same, but I'm very happy in a way that, you know, we have to go to other stands to seek for support. My last play was basically, the tour was funded by the audience. The audience bought tickets in advance, and this allowed us 4 presentations. I think this is the best way. A good friend of mine from Morocco, a director, just told me that his theater is strictly on members. So people are invited to each play. Doesn't want anything from the government, not because it opposes, certainly, but because it never really gets there and it's too hard to ask. I think it's the same condition. Yeah.
Thanks. I'm not seeing any more hands.
I see a question in the chat.
Oh, okay. Ida, could you read that?
Yeah. How do you keep lightness and joy when working with children? Yeah.
Go ahead, Guy.
Oh, yeah. My daughter just came in, so I welcomed her. So how do you keep a lightness and joy when working with children, particularly considering the violent, traumatic context of their lives? Wow, amazing question that deserves a few hours of debate. This is something that is very, very present all the time, because also the level of traumatic and violence can go from 0 to 100. When, you know, the trauma of Haifa Palestinian children would be to hear death to Arabs in demonstrations in the street, and to wake up to these crying, these shouts. So, and of course, traumas can go to the other end as well, and I meet those too. So there's always a sensitivity and the listening to the specific child, because it's very, very sensitive. And I would like to point out one example where we took our puppets and went to visit a Palestinian hospital in the West Bank, well, in East Jerusalem. So this hospital had casualties of Gaza, amputated children, severe burnings. So certainly we couldn't speak Hebrew. We wouldn't speak Hebrew, but at the same time, we all speak Arabic, 3 of us that came to the hospital, but we also prefer not to speak and let the puppets work alone. So we had an elephant puppet, and we had some other puppets, and kids reacted to them also without the ability to speak most of the time. So this very, very tiptoe approach is always with children and with students. Like I keep telling students, theater is not therapy. It's maybe a good way to think about therapy, but it can't replace. So don't bring over all trauma to the class. Negotiate before what you want to share, what would be too much. So it's a bit like teaching sensibility in free speech. People need that sensitivity. I think we all need that. We all get to to lose control sometimes. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, last May was a very violent month in Israel, where very racist outbreaks and we're all over mixed towns here in Haifa too. I personally discovered that this sensibility also is very much in me. I can't hardly bear violence in front of me anymore, and so I think, yeah, it's not, you know, working with people who are not traumatized, or not to my knowledge, let's say my students, is it's somewhat a relief. And also because they're adults, so they have a certain responsibility over what they share or bring to class. But I'm always trying to be aware of that. A very sensitive post-traumatic or traumatic time. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Just makes it even more clear how many incredibly difficult issues you're balancing, both individually with your work, with your group. So very impressive to hear this. So thank you, Guy, and thank you everyone in the audience for great questions and for being with us. We have a next seminar coming up on the 1st of December, which is called Protest Aesthetics in Motion by Janine Madeleine Fischer. I think I've seen her here today as well. So I hope many of you will join that as well. And I wish you all a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.